Hey guys, this is Mark Goldberg from Mark Vlogs Watches. Thank you so much for joining me today. We're going to have a lot to talk about. When you get bored with your Rolex, what should you do? Should you swap it out? Should you sell it? Should you move on? Will you lose money? Will you make money? There's so much to discuss here. But before we get into that, let me show you the watch that I'm wearing today, the quick fist watch check, and here it is. Today, guys, I am wearing, look at that glare. See, this is what happens. Oh my gosh, this is me within me. So this is what happens when Rolex doesn't put any anti-reflective coating on the crystal. Anyway, long short, this is the 50th anniversary Rolex Sea Dweller Redline. I thought a lot about selling this watch because I got bored with it. It's a little big, it's a little chunky. And that is exactly the topic that we're going to talk about today, because I've got a letter, and I have a letter here from, let me look up your name, sir. I've sanitized and washed these hands before I lick them. Simon Goodchild, which sounds a little bit like a made-up name. But at any rate, he says, "Hi Mark, longtime viewer, first time to write in." Well, thank you. Oh, and guys, if you'd like to write in and be mocked on my channel, then feel free to write to me, and I'll drop my email address in here, but it's markgoldberg8@gmail.com, so write in. Oh, and before we go any further, please throw a like on this video. If you're not subscribing, do that now so that we can make sure to do this again together. Okay, guys, Simon Goodchild says, "I have a Rolex 116600 Sea Dweller 4000 40 millimeter, but I've come to dislike the top-heavy nature of this watch, and I also find it a little small in diameter. My 42 millimeter Explorer 2 is by far my preferred piece, as it is easier to read in suboptimal lighting, and it sits more nicely on the wrist. Most of my other watches are 42 or 43 millimeters. So real quick, guys, that Sea Dweller 4000 is the predecessor here to the Redline 50th anniversary, and it is a bit smaller. This is 43 millimeters, and the one that Simon Goodchild is talking about is 40 millimeters, but it's still reasonably thick. I will show you a picture right now of the 4000 that Simon's talking about. So that watch was in production for, I think, only 3 years. And I think this guy here is coming up on its 3rd year now. It's likely to be in production for far longer than that. So people do talk about that 4000 becoming a collector's item because it wasn't in the lineup in the Rolex range for very long. It's kind of rare that Rolex premieres a model as important as the Sea Dweller and then changes it up and shifts it so radically in only 3 years. It literally changed size. Simon goes on to say, "I understand that the 126600 Sea Dweller 43 millimeters, that's this guy right here, is the same thickness, but being a larger diameter and a chunkier bracelet, I reckon it will sit nice and look better." So while we're here, guys, I did bring along the calipers. Let me throw it on the let me throw this on the calipers. So what we have here is a 22 millimeter, which 22 millimeters here, and it tapers down to 20. Okay, so that is the dimension of this guy right here. And of course, it has the Glidelock Clasp. I'll show you that really quickly. Actually, they both do. Both those watches do. But you can see the little ratchets in here. This means that I can pull down. You heard that click, and I can push this in, re-click it, and I have shortened up the bracelet. The bracelet is very smart engineering. It sort of hides the excess under the clasp itself, as opposed to the Omega Seamaster, which just kind of like elongates or shrinks the clasp. This is hiding all the excess under the clasp itself for a neater look. Anyway, back to Simon's letter. So what's happening here is he's bored with his 4000 or doesn't like the dimensions of it anymore. And he's got this puppy on his mind. And he's wondering how to, what to do next. "I don't have a relationship with an AD, so buying new isn't an option." Well, I gotta say, steel sports are in super short supply right now. I made a video about Rolex 2021 supply, and it's not good, and it's not gonna get better anytime really soon. But the Sea Dweller is not an especially loved portion of the Steel Sports line. The Submariner and all versions of the Submariner are far more popular. So it is possible that you might be a little surprised. You might have a better shot at this one than if you were going for a Submariner. However, he goes on, given that the SD4000 is a valuable piece, I kind of think that a straight swap might be possible, but gray market dealers need to make an honest profit, right? How would you recommend I proceed? I don't want to lose too much to a dealer in the transaction, but I do have a certain fear of selling privately. Any help or advice would be much appreciated. Simon Goodchild from England. Okay, Simon Goodchild. Keep that SD4000 if you would like my personal take on this matter. Is this a cool watch? Yes. But are you wearing a cool watch? Yes. Just because you got bored with the one doesn't mean you won't get bored with the other. Now, I know you're referencing the dimensions, but let's be honest. It's just that you've had it too long, right? It's like you had your G.I. Joe long enough, and now you just want to swap it for somebody else's G.I. Joe. How do I know that? Because I have the exact same problem with every watch I've ever purchased, okay? That's the problem. This guy right here, I have to fight the urge to sell it constantly. Why is that? Because I don't know. I'm like, I love the newness. I love the hunt. I love thinking about it and researching and trying to calculate out what else I'm going to do. So this watch is so radically different than the Submariner that I wanted it. And honestly, everything about it says to me, awesome, amazing watch. It's like a Submariner on steroids. Like if I were to, let me throw a wrist shot of me with a Submariner in right here so you can kind of compare the two. In fact, you know what? I'll go you one better. I have a Submariner upstairs. I'm going to put this video on hold for 1 second. I'll be right back and we'll compare them. Oh, I'm wearing an Apple Watch, but I'll get rid of that. Let's put on a sub. Let's see what these two things look like, because the Submariner is 40 millimeters. It's just not quite as thick and chunky as that SD4000, but from the 40 millimeter standpoint, it's the same. Don't move. And through the magic of editing, I am back with my Submariner Hulk. And already you can kind of see the difference. So let me get this guy off the wrist and I'll hold them up together. I mean, you can see there's a difference in size. So I'll tell you what, I'm gonna double wrist it so that you get the perspective from right on my wrist. I'm gonna pull a Schwarzkopf here, guys. Okay, so here we go. Having a little trouble with glare. It can be a little hard to tell depending on the perspective of the camera, but this Sea Dweller, it's definitively taller and bigger, especially if I put it in front like this. This is probably the most accurate view because it's not that the Submariner is small, but it's just that this is, you know, bigger and chunkier. So here's the problem, Simon. If you go through a dealer, yes, they need to make a profit each way. So here's what happens. You will be selling your SD4000 wholesale because you have to leave room for their markup. And then you will be buying this Sea Dweller retail. That means you're getting it both ways. You're losing money both ways. Honestly, I wouldn't do it. Now, you say you're nervous about doing a private swap. Okay, I don't blame you. It would be too easy to get ripped off with a fine replica, you know, which is to say a counterfeit or a fake. So I understand why you might want to do that. And it could be really hard to find the opposite face to your crazy. I mean, the flip side to your crazy coin, which is somebody with a SD43 that wants the SD4000. I don't think that's so likely to happen, especially not in a smaller country like the UK. So I think don't do it. Don't do it. And I'm going to tell you why. If you turn around in 10 years, I have a feeling that your SD4000 is probably going to be worth a bit more than this guy here. This will probably be on the market in its current iteration for a whole lot longer than 3 years. Now, at the end of the day, it's the Submariner line that gets all the glory in Rolex. This is the watch that everybody wants. These guys have lagged behind and they have just never appreciated at the same rate as the Submariner. This is sort of the unloved redheaded stepchild of the Rolex diving line. But, like I said, I think you want to make this change more out of boredom. You've convinced yourself that it's the proportions. I would hold tight. I think you probably will wind up with the rarer Rolex, and if you were to look back in 10 years, I think you'll regret selling it. So I would hold tight, keep what you got. Yeah, you can just save yourself up for an SD43, but don't be so sure that it's hopeless, because I don't think there's a tremendous demand for this particular watch at the authorized dealer. So if you call around, you may find that you'll get a better reception for the SD43 than you would for a Submariner, because there's like 50 guys calling per day for the Submariner, and maybe there's only 1 or 2 guys calling per month for the Sea Dweller 43mm. Not everybody can carry this off. Apparently you can, because most of your watches are big. So honestly, I think I would hit the AD and see if you can get this, especially if you can afford to keep your SD43 in this. Otherwise, put this one out of your mind. Stick with what you got. Guys, when you get bored with your Rolex and you just start moving it and shifting it and flicking it and then buying something else, you're going to lose money. It's just like the stock market. Buy good stuff and hold. Don't be flicking through things or you lose money. Meantime, I just flicked through a whole bunch of stuff. So I will make you a new video about I think I just sold 4 Rolexes. But I did it the right way and I didn't lose money. But if you're not super careful, you can lose money on this stuff. It's so easy to do. I'm going to make you a video about that too. Guys, don't get bored with your Rolex. I appreciate your having stuck with me through the whole entirety of this video. Please throw a like on this and subscribe so we can do it again. We're going to talk Rolex a lot this year. 2021 promises to be an interesting year. Stay healthy, guys. This is Goldberg. Peace out.
Paint the sky.